Okay, I want to thank everybody for an outstanding debate. I really enjoyed watching it, and I think it's difficult to judge, as a good debate should be. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about which side I voted for and why I voted that way, and then I'm going to offer some comments for individual speakers. So I'd like you to feel free to ask me questions throughout my presentation. If you have something you want to ask or you want some clarification, feel free to kind of jump in. And I'll do the best I can to answer your questions because I want this to be an educational process for everybody. Okay? Okay. So I think I thought this was actually a very close debate. The real issue in this debate is not, is boxing good or bad? As you know, the issue is really, should boxing be banned? And I thought that both teams adopted sort of a sophisticated approach to this issue, and that we weren't just arguing is it good or bad, but what will be the actual ramifications of banning it? And the main argument, obviously, that the opposition is making is this argument that it will be driven underground. And so they're saying, yeah, we totally agree. Boxing is bad. The issue is what will happen when we ban boxing. And they're arguing that it will make violence worse and that sort of thing. Okay. Now, the major answer to this on the proposition side is essentially that there are things like drug use, for example, and murder that are underground, but it's not like we're going to legalize those things. And I think that that's a good point, but I'm not sure that that's really responsive to the issue at hand in some respects. And here's what I mean by that. What I mean is that I think that if the opposition is right, that if we ban boxing, let's say they're right, that if we ban boxing, it'll drive it underground, and they say 10 times more people will die. I don't have any idea if that's true, but it's not really contested. So let's just say that that's what occurs. Now, from a sort of pragmatic perspective, and what I mean by that is looking at just sort of what are the actual consequences of the policy decision. It seems that that would be bad. That if 10 times as many people die. And even though, I think Richard has a very good point, as does Chafer, who also makes this argument, which is that it's not like we're going to legalize murder, because it happens anyway and we should regulate it. Even though I think that that's true, I'm not sure that it goes far enough to answer the issue of is it a good thing or a bad thing to save these people's lives. Okay, so in this debate, I voted for the opposition. And the reason I voted for the opposition is I think they're winning the argument that if we ban boxing, it'll drive the practice underground and a bunch more people will die. And I think that ultimately that is probably, I think they even agree with your arguments, one beat Scotland is enough, for example, or it's bad, second impact syndrome is bad. I think they're agreeing with all this and saying, yes, we agree with that, so that's a reason to keep boxing sort of safe and legal, or safer, I guess. Now, I think that the way to answer this is to say more than just, well, it's not like we legalize murder. To say that, look, there are other ways that we can deal with the underground boxing that you seem to believe will occur. Like, for example, we would have police, and we would have jail sentences, and we would have other things that would deter people from doing that. Do you know what I mean? Just sort of to answer more specifically this argument about the black market that will be created and what will happen. I think if you had done more to answer their claim, which is essentially uncontested, that 10 times as many people will die, then I think ultimately you could have won the overall debate. But as it was, I didn't think that you won the debate. Now, here's some comments for individual speakers. Chloe, I thought your speech was really good. I thought you did a great job of starting the debate out. I think that it seemed, though, that you were not as confident as you could have been in your speech. I gave you a 27 because I felt like it was an outstanding performance, but it could have used some more fluency in your presentation. And it seemed as if you were kind of not as organized as you could have been. There was a little bit of jumping between points, but the reason I gave you 27, which I think are quite high points, is because I thought your points of information were outstanding. And I think Chloe's really setting a good example for how we should make points of information. Is she's making a lot of statements, she's making a lot of points, and she's got great presence when she's making points. She really makes you as the judge think, oh, she's engaged in the debate. Yeah? Okay. Brandon, I give you a 28, which I think that's an exceptional score for me, at least as a judge. I thought your speech was outstanding. And the reason I thought it was so outstanding is because you covered a broad array of issues. You answered everything that Chloe said. And also that I thought you were giving a lot of examples. You know, there was a lot of evidence in your speech. You're talking about the different, and you seem very knowledgeable about the subject matter, about boxing. And so all of that I felt really made it seem, and you did a great job of responding to points by the other side. And so all of that, I think, and your presence throughout the debate really made it seem like you were, you know, strong, authoritative figure in the debate. And so that was what I thought. I thought that you could have done a little bit better job of making some of your own points in the debate. Do you know what I mean? You sort of got carried away a little bit with answering their stuff. And it would be nice to see you making a few more of your own points at the end of your speech. And so that was probably the difference for me, you know, ultimately between a 28 and a 28.5, which is, you know, what the next score that I could have given you. Okay, Chedra, I thought your speech was really good. I gave you a 27.5. I think that you're doing a great job of answering all of the arguments that are made by the other side. In fact, you're doing a really impressive job of answering all the arguments. Did you guys notice she was very like, they said this, but they said this, but they said that. You really get a feeling like there's some ownership of the debate, and you are trying to close down the debate, and you're really doing an outstanding job. I would like to see you present some more new information in your speech. I felt like your speech was a little bit reactive, and it would be nice to hear you bring in some new examples, some new arguments. At this time in the debate, I think generally for the second proposition speaker, it's a good idea to bring some new material into the debate. And so I think if you had done that, you might have, you know, gotten a little bit of a higher score, but I thought that was, you know, quite a good score. Okay. At this point in the debate, I thought things broke down just a little. And here's what I mean by that is, until this point in the debate, there's a lot of different arguments happening. And then Kevin and Valer's speeches together they're essentially only making one argument in their speech, right, which is this "it goes underground" argument. I mean, there are a lot of other arguments there, but they're all basically part of that argument. And Kevin, I gave you 27, and because I thought the speech was great. You know, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely too focused on just the one issue. You know, I really wanted to hear you talk more about some of the other issues that were going on in the debate, engage them, you know, more, for example, on, you know, the issue of medics. I liked where you went with the issue of gladiators, and I wish that you had applied your discussion, you know, about gladiator combat more to the issue, the public policy issue, which is should we ban boxing, to say, well, obviously everybody in this room agrees that gladiator combat, not something you want. You know, bad idea to have gladiator combat. Okay, so, but the issue is, how is that analogous to boxing? You know, it's not, and here are the reasons for that. You know, rather than saying, well, it's not really similar, you know, to say, not only is it not similar, right, but in particular, it's a different thing. And I don't know if any of you guys have seen the movie Fight Club. I think
I was going to bring that up.
Okay, despite the fact that it's R-rated, which I don't need to talk about. But I think this would have been a good time to talk about it as an analogy, you know, of something that can be driven underground and how that sort of works out in practice. That would be a good idea, because I sort of feel like there needs to be some more evidence for this a little bit. You know, like, okay, it makes sense that it would be driven underground, but is there any precedent for that? You know, can we think of any times or other situations in which that was true and bad? You know what I mean? So, like, more. And then more focus on different issues. You know, you need to have more to say than just, it'll be driven underground, it'll be bad, it'll be driven underground, it'll be bad, it'll be, you know what I mean? It's sort of like a one-note thing for you. And so I think some more new information and maybe a little bit different, you know, addressing more of a variety of issues. Okay? Valerie, I thought your rebuttal was really good. In fact, I thought it was the best speech in the debate, and I gave you 28.5. Here's what I liked about Valerie's rebuttal. I thought that Valerie's rebuttal was really good because she had a good combination of the big picture. You know, sort of here's my big argument about why we're winning this debate, and also she dealt with some of the minutiae of the debate, which I liked. I think that I mean, the problem is from the rebuttal's perspective is usually that you can all you've got is what your partners have given you, right? Because you can't really make any new arguments in the debate. And so I think Valerie's a little bit hamstrung in this debate because of Kevin focusing too much on the underground issues. You know what I mean? But I do think Valerie does a good job of dealing with some other issues. For example, the issue of you're answering their crime argument by saying, they say decreases crime, but how do we know? I think, by the way, you could have done a better job of, everybody in this debate, somebody in this debate needed to address the claim that boxing was banned and then crime went down, therefore banning boxing decreased crime. Okay, there's a name for this. It's called a post hoc fallacy. It's a logical fallacy. And it's like, Shaker, you said, I got up this morning and then the sun came up. Therefore, my getting up caused the sun to come up. Right? It's like, well, it's after this, therefore this. And I think somebody needs to say, okay, come on, time out. Like, is there really a causal relationship? How do we know? But at least, Valerie, you said, how do we know? It's decreased crime. If it's underground, you can't see it, which I thought was amazing. So, I thought you did a really good job. Richard, I also thought your speech was outstanding. I give you 27.5. I thought you gave quite a good rebuttal. And here's what I liked about Richard's rebuttal, is I thought it was interesting the way that it contrasted with Valerie's rebuttal. You sort of got the sense that there were two different styles, but both of them were equally effective. I think that, the problem, and what Richard's doing, which is really well, is kind of taking the issues, addressing them, and then talking about the larger issue at play. So, for example, you say, well, it'll decrease crime, and that means, we'll have better lives. You're trying to take the small argument and then turn it into the bigger argument, which I really liked. I think that, the problem for you is that you need to spend more time on this underground argument, because it's really only developed later in the debate by the second opposition constructive and the opposition rebuttalist. And if I was you, I would have devoted, a minute and a half of my 3-minute speech to that issue, because it's really the only thing they have going on in the debate. If they lose that argument, they're done. There's no, and so I think, spending more time on that, really just, destroying it, being like, well, they seem to believe that there will now be this gigantic black market in boxing. That doesn't even make any sense. Like, where will people get rings? Are we just believe that, like, police won't break it up? In fact, when we banned cockfighting, it's not like there were, all of a sudden, a massive explosion in underground cockfighting. Of course, cockfighting still exists in an illegal way, but it's not like it's everywhere. They make it seem like you're going to go down to your 7-Eleven, and there are going to be people fighting, in the ice cream row. All right, let's go. So I think you need to say, well, we would actually make it better. They may be right that there'll be some people who will box underground, but still, we'll make it better. Okay, good. Anyway, I know some people have questions.
In the rebuttal, like how I kind of summed it up and everything, is it your preference that we do that as in concluded and then post points that our teammates didn't do, or do you want us just to do points, like just review everything?
That's an important question. Here's the thing, is that the opposition constructive, Kevin's speech and Valerie's speech, they're basically the same speech. So it doesn't make any sense for Valerie to just repeat what Kevin already said. So my feeling is, if Kevin already said it, you don't really need to repeat it. You might emphasize it or relate it to other stuff. I think you should actually go to the stuff that Kevin didn't go to. Okay. And deal with that stuff as well as kind of sum it up. I think that's an important question, and that's my answer to that.
Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else? Other questions?
Like, when you said that I focused too much on that one thing, do you think I should have said, like, even if it wasn't that bad underground, it's still better now, or like answer their points?
Yeah.
And something like that?
Yeah, I do. And I think you need to have, I guess what I sort of feel is you need another strategy. Like, let's say you don't win the underground argument. Is there another way that you can win the debate? Does it make sense to you? And so, you spend all this time talking about underground, and then you need to sort of, I think you had some good arguments that Richard's making earlier in the debate that it would be good to go back to. So for example, this argument, the argument about how Lila Ali boxes and Bacha Camacho Jr. boxes, and the idea it's an individual's choice to box, and what happened to the freedom associated with that. What I mean? I think to sort of say, okay, here's our argument, it's going to go underground, and then also, you know, we shouldn't ban it because, do you see what I mean? Like, there's two different approaches there. Instead of just, you know, constantly talking about going underground, more diverse approach, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Anybody else? Okay, good. All right, thank you guys so much. It was really good debate.
Good job. Good job. Good job. Congratulations.